There are many players who have achieved incredible heights in their careers, reached their full potential, and have become the best in the world. But professional sport is tough, and even highly talented players don't always achieve the heights they're capable of. Some get knocked down by injuries, some break down under pressure of the fans and media, and many, many reasons more. And strangely enough, even among the top and apparently successful players, there are enough of those whose careers have gone downhill. In this video, we'll tell you about these examples. So here are the top 10 players whose careers have all gone wrong. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a 4-word comment. And let's go! 10th place, Philippe Coutinho. Philippe Coutinho has been one of the most promising players in the world. He showed a great game for Liverpool, attracting more and more attention from different clubs. But it was Barcelona who wanted him most. The Catalans managed to sign him, and Philippe ended up in the club's ranks in January 2018. In Barcelona, he was far from the level of performance he was capable of, and he was regularly criticised by the fans for it. It was not a nice gesture, as Coutinho scored a great goal, but it's never nice to do something like that to the fans. The public criticised the player because they know he has more to give. Philippe ended up on loan at Bayern in 2019. Although he played well, the Munich side simply could not afford the transfer. So he returned to Barcelona and made another attempt to achieve greatness. Particularly after Messi left the club, then Barca coach Ronald Koeman was going to build the game around Coutinho. He even offered him the number 10, which the Brazilian refused. But in the end, Philippe Coutinho never found himself in Barcelona and ended up at Aston Villa, and now plays, relatively successful. But nevertheless, he is now a pale shadow of his talent. Once super promising player has squandered an enormous amount of opportunities and takes number 10 in the list. 9th place, Fernando Torres. Fernando Torres is a real legend of Spanish football. He was an integral part of the Red Furies lineup that won the World Cup in 2010. His club career was an incredible one. He was a real star at Atletico Madrid, but in 2007, Torres joined Liverpool for the then record fee. He shone for 4 years at Liverpool before deciding to switch to Chelsea in 2011, where they'd been trying to lure him for some time. For many fans, the move came as a real blow. It's hard to understand why he left. As it turned out, the move to Chelsea was a blow not only for the fans, but also for Torres himself. After all, Fernando scored the only goal in 18 games in the second half of the 2010-11 season. In London, he lost a lot of his confidence and vegetated in the club for 4 years, having been on a meaningless loan at Milan. In 2015, he returned to his native Atletico, where he played more than 100 more games, but at a radically different level. And in 2018, at the end of his career, he went to Sagan Tosu, Japan. Fernando Torres had incredible potential and could have been one of the best players in history. But Chelsea, where he was supposed to spend the best years of his career, became the club where he was destined to lose a lot. Thus, the Spaniard ended up at number 9. Number 8, Andrei Arshavin. Andrei Arshavin is one of the most famous Russian footballers. He's one of the few Russians to have played for a top foreign club. That was Arsenal, when he joined after 9 seasons at playing for Zenit St. Petersburg, where Andrei won 5 significant trophies. He was also a contender for the Ballon d'Or in 2008, after Zenit won the UEFA Cup and Russia won bronze at the Euro. Andrei started playing for Arsenal at the age of 27, and for the most part, despite playing a fair number of games, he only managed to make difference scoring poker against Liverpool. Thus, he became the first man in 63 years to score 4 goals at Anfield in the Premier League. I've never scored 4 goals before. Andrei Arshavin was an incredibly talented player. As his coaches said many times, Andrei is a classy player. But despite Arshavin's talent, he's not fully fulfilled his potential. Since 2011, he's been a substitute player, making only occasional appearances. After Arsenal, he managed to play in the Russian Premier League for a while, first for his native Zenit and then for Cuban. Then he left to finish the rest of his career at Kazakhstani Kairat. A player with incredible potential ended his career so poorly, and that's a shame when it happens like that. Andrei himself believes that if he joined the English Premier League a couple of years earlier, things might have turned out better, and he would have revealed himself in a completely different way. But unfortunately, we have what we have, and that's why Andre is justly ranked number 8 in our top flight. Number 7, Neymar. Neymar is probably the most successful player on our list, but nevertheless, we will explain why he is rightly in it. Neymar is one of the most talented footballers in history. Neymar is a very talented one. The Brazilian phenomenon has already done and continues to do genuine miracles on the pitch. But what he has now is utterly incomparable to what he could have had. With such talent, he could be on par with Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. After playing for Brazilian Santos, the 21-year-old Neymar found himself in Barcelona. In Catalonia, he became a real star, shining in the club for 4 years. Though Neymar denies it, he apparently did not want to play in Messi's shadow, and there was a desire to follow new challenges. That's how he ended up at PSG. From that moment on, his career took a turn for the worse. The transfer fee alone was too promising. More specifically, Neymar was signed to the Parisian club for €222 million. The Brazilian was expected to become a true leader of PSG and lead the club to many victories, especially in the Champions League. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Regular injuries, partying, and scandals around Neymar have distracted him away from the goals they originally outlined. The Brazilian is now 31 years old and hasn't been the contender to be the best in the world for a while, though he was probably one of the main in the past. Still, to this day, he continues to show a top-class game since regular trophies in French tournaments evidence him to be a great player. That's why he's still only in 7th place in the list. 6th place, Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard is a real star of Belgian football and represents its golden generation. From an early age, he showed an amazing performance, which later led him to Chelsea, where he became a star and team leader. One character you cannot miss is Eden Hazard. He's on fire, and he's probably the best player in the Premier League right now. The Belgian's career at Chelsea was amazing. He was loved by everyone there, but he decided to go after new challenges and become part of Real Madrid as a replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo. In 3.5 years at Real Madrid, Hazard personally had achieved, well, exactly nothing. In total, he's scored fewer than 10 goals in all competitions. And this is a terrible figure for a striker whose value is equal to €100 million. That's how much the Madrid club have offered for him. Constant injuries and a minimal desire to work on himself have done their job. That places him at number 6. 5th place, Robinho. At one time, Robinho was considered to be a very talented player. After a successful career at Brazilian Santos, he found himself at Real Madrid. He started to show his worst side back then, even though he'd won the Spanish title twice with Real Madrid. His lack of concentration prevented him from fulfilling his potential. The main things Robinho thought about were partying, and partying only. He even set up a nightclub in the basement of his house so that the paparazzi could not watch his nightlife. Moreover, he could often simply skip training sessions, for which he received regular fines. In 2008, the Brazilian was expected to move to Chelsea in London. The club had even started to sell jerseys with his name on them. But on the last day of the transfer window, Robinho ended up in Manchester City for some reason. This move was condemned and they called it a betrayal. This transfer is one of the most shameful episodes in the history of Brazilian football. Robinho is an idol for children, a role model. In this situation, he didn't do what he was supposed to do regarding his status. In Manchester, Robinho's partying career only gained further momentum. In 2009, he was detained by police on suspicion of rape. With this situation, he even turned away the legendary Pelé, who had great expectations on Robinho. Things like this really upset me. We're doing so much to ease the path to the big football for the younger generation of players, while stars like Robinho cast a shadow not only on football, but also on the whole country with such behaviour. Just a month after the scandal, Robinho left England and spent the rest of his career wandering around different clubs, never finding himself again. It's a pity. Robinho could have become a true Brazilian legend, but he became a national disgrace. 4th place, Loris Karius. Karius' story is probably the most frustrating of the entire list. His entire career was derailed by a single match, namely after the 2018 Champions League final, which many of you remember perfectly. Karius made two grave mistakes in the match. First, he threw the ball straight at the feet of Karim Benzema, and then he failed to save Gareth Bale's long shot. Although Karius was not a true top performer, but by showing good performance in the most crucial match, he could definitely claim to keep playing for Liverpool or any other European big club. But unfortunately, that was his last match for Merseysides. After that, he first ended up on loan at Besiktas and then at Union Berlin. Now, Loris Karius is a Newcastle player. He got the chance to play in the Carabao Cup final against Manchester United. The match is probably over by the time you watch this video. Write us from the future if Karius managed to revive his career, or has he cemented himself as a top loser for life? Third place, Mario Götze. Mario Götze was one of Germany's most promising players. It was Mario who scored the winning goal in the 2014 World Cup final, making Germany four-time World Cup winners. Felix Magath claimed that such gifted players are born once in a century. He was compared to Messi, and it seemed he could climb the football Olympus just because of his incredible talent. Even Borussia's fans have forgiven him for the grievances he caused since his move to Bayern. But like every player in the list, things went wrong. Mario gradually started performing poorly and ended up on the bench. After a while, he decided to go back to his roots and found himself at Borussia again. But even then, Götze did not show his old game. As a result, the Golden Boy moved to PSV and then to Eintracht. This is absolutely not what Götze and fans expected from him. Many believe that a major role in his decline was played by his early fame, since after that goal, he was literally adored. Let's not forget about his regular injuries as well. It is a shame when such talents simply disappear, but unfortunately, Mario Götze occupies the third line of our top. Second place, Ricardo Quaresma. Ricardo Quaresma was put on a par with Cristiano Ronaldo. Some even thought he was more talented than Cristiano. But despite this, fate had it that Quaresma didn't even come close to the greatness of the Portugal CR7. At one time, Ricardo really shone for Porto, even becoming Portugal League top player twice. But that is the only outstanding in his career. If you watch the clips of his tricks, you'll be truly surprised by the talent of Quaresma. It's sad to see him rotate around different clubs year after year, never really making any serious progress. For the most part, it is his own fault for not developing his talent. His bad temper played a particularly important part in it. I know I seem reserved and sometimes unpleasant to talk to. I'm a bit of a rebel. If people knew what I went through as a kid, they might understand why I'm like this. One can go on and on about the reasons for the failure of Quaresma, but the main one will remain his character. Ricardo Quaresma is rightly second on the list of failed players. First place, Mario Balotelli. This is the clearest example of an irresponsible attitude being the biggest obstacle to greatness, even for incredible talent. Balotelli is the man who's buried his talent so deep that it simply cannot be unearthed. Mario was the player who was hunted by the most serious clubs in Europe, and it seemed he would become one of the greatest Italian players in history. But as is in the case of Quaresma, his poor character was the source of his failed career. The list of all the crazy things Mario did is endless. Mario was good fun. I could write a book of 200 pages about Mario, and it would not be a drama but a comedy. For many, Mario Balotelli's life may be a comedy, but obviously not for him. After dozens of scandalous, inadequate deeds, he's finally become a burden. In fact, no team wanted to pay huge money for a player who could just skip a match because he felt like it. As a result, Mario, at the peak of his career, is playing in the little-known Swiss Sion. And under different circumstances, he could now conquer the Champions League with top European clubs. But concerning guys like Quaresma and Balotelli, there is not much to be sorry for, because they are the ones to blame for everything that's going on in their lives. They're not the players who've been brought down by injuries or any other problems. It was only the nasty temper. Now you know the top 10 players whose careers have been derailed. Maybe some other names come to mind. Be sure to share them in the comments.